Remember that you are not Vasco da Gama or Amerigo Vespucci or Columbus. Often you will come across a pre-written work of research from the internet and you might be tempted to copy the words of the paper verbatim. Your senior might advise you that you get ready-made projects from some place. Just change the name and submit. No one will know. Someone will know. Trust me. Google is really good and we teachers are also using smartphones. At a particular point of your research, you might find that someone has already said what you started out to say. So you begin to think, I might as well copy it. No, that is plagiarism. Your job is to read that and then come up with a different perspective, a different angle. Paraphrase that. More the number of secondary sources, the more chances of discovering that your so-called discovery has already been discovered by somebody else. Your ideas have already been thought of and documented by somebody. Do not get disheartened, thinking you have to come up with some original idea which has never seen the light of the day or thought by someone else. You can always document the findings of what you read about during your research in your own words. Give proper credits to the authors and then in the conclusion, state the significance of the title. Make it relevant to the reader. It is here that you can be a Priyadarshan. Priyadarshan? Yes. I heard in an interview that Priyadarshan has used the plots of several movies to create his own films. Are they the same? No. He transforms them into an awesome visual treat. So it is alright to be a Priyadarshan than Vasco da Gama or a Marco Polo, but give credits to the Polos or Vespuccis or Hitchcocks or Siddiq Lals who went before you. I do not know if Priyadarshan does that or did that, but then you need to give credits for the works you have referred. In the review of literature or literature review, you must write the findings of the studies done on the topic and also state their significance to your work. This helps you to form a platform, a launch pad to put forth your argument. You will state in your research paper how and why your work will add to the knowledge pool. This is the history of the studies done on Hamlet. I am making this argument based on this history. So what happens in Hamlet? Hamlet is asked by the ghost of his dad to avenge him. But Hamlet keeps searching for excuses to prolong this act. No proof convinces him to act upon the task. So the researcher might cite the psychological obstacles of Hamlet. The most famous being the argument that Hamlet had Oedipus complex. This argument became popular with the entry of Freud into the literary scene. You can find examples from the play, especially his scenes with his mother, which might support this angle. Then you can state that Hamlet was idealistic. He wanted to do the right thing, so killing a king, oh my god, that is not right. Possibly he does not want to commit a crime. Regicide or the killing of a king is a crime. You can justify this by quoting from his Soliloquies, which helps us understand how his mind works. So once you make your assertion that Hamlet is a play of procrastination, you defend that assertion by giving examples and describing why the assertion is apt. Now comes the most important part, the significance. So what? Hamlet is one of Shakespeare's most popular plays. So you'll find so many secondary sources and it will be difficult for you to find that unique perspective. Do not fall into temptation and plagiarize. Instead, think about the play and analyze how you can connect it with your own life. Then you state its significance. Significance of what? Significance of the title you have chosen, not Hamlet. Hamlet is a play which has a lot of similarities to our own lives. No, it does not mean that we all have Oedipus complex. What is the greatest fear? The fear of death. Hamlet deals with life and death issues, nothing less. He is dealing with the most powerful person in the world for him. Hamlet is going to kill the king of Denmark. He is committing regicide. The stakes does not get higher than this. The game is on. Before he overcomes the king, he has to overcome his own mental monsters. Shakespeare takes us readers on that journey. Hamlet's procrastination is a means for Shakespeare to do a psychological evaluation of a young man. It appeals to youngsters like you. It appeals to a youngster who might be having a difficult relationship with parental figures, their dads or moms, or their teachers. People who belong to the age group of 13 to 24 will experience this angst. It's a particular time in each of their lives where they figure out their personal space and their goals or what needs to be done. This also means conflict with parents. On a different level, Hamlet appeals to the procrastinator in each one of us. We keep stalling things day after day and ultimately destroys our peace of mind. Hamlet's inability to act stems from his inability to address his problem head on. We try to beat around the bush and hope that the problems in our lives get solved on their own. We have a problem with our teacher or our boss. We hope that maybe he gets transferred instead of addressing them directly. Hamlet's procrastination helps the audience reflect upon the cost of revenge and committing a murder. All the major characters die at the end of the play. Hamlet gets his revenge, but at what cost? This effect would not have been effectively rendered had Hamlet not procrastinated, weighing in on every option. Shakespeare's portrayal of Hamlet's procrastination is relevant to today's readers as it helps us reflect upon the purpose of life, prepares us for facing the challenges life throws at us. See how an ordinary title transforms into something with which the audience can connect with.